All right, market update here on the 12th. So we finally get a red candle on the 4-hour time frame. Nice to see. Getting tired of all that green, to be honest. And we fell pretty hard. We finished down 0.61%. So what do we have here? I think that we have the completion of ABC right here. Talked about that yesterday. And then I gave you a scenario where we come down here to 432 and fill this gap, and that's exactly what happened in the video yesterday. This was 5 waves. Get rid of all these. So we get a expanded flat here. So we get the B wave that goes higher than the A wave and comes straight down. So we created a supply zone here on the hourly. You can see pretty clearly right here. Nice supply zone. So that was kind of nice if you had puts right here. You knew that you were in supply. I had some 440 puts for December in the money because I didn't know if we were going to come up here to 440 or 438, and I would have added up here. But those played out pretty nicely. And then you can see how important it is to have a supply zone where you're looking for, right down here. Look at that, hits the very bottom of it, right there, and then bounces completely out of it. So important, supply and demand. And so I basically sold all of my puts right around in here, knowing there's a gap fill here and we'd probably bounce out of it. It's exactly what happened. I actually switched to calls, knowing that this is probably the C wave. However, I did miss one thing. I think that I'm pretty sure we're going to go down tomorrow. It looks like this might be a 4th wave. Nice bounce, but I think there's a very good chance that we hit potentially 430.59. Maybe that's not right though. It looks like it might be a bear flag / 4th wave. So if that happens, I would be looking for 430.59. That's kind of in between my 2 demand zones though. That's kind of why I'm hesitating a little bit. But I would be looking for 430.59. It doesn't have to go to the 1.61 fib exactly, so maybe it will come down here to 429.91 if that happens. But I think there's a good possibility of that happening tomorrow, and that would complete the overall ABC move. But this does not mean there's going to be that much more downside, because this is a ABC move. It just means that we're going to either be done correcting right here, or we're going to end up doing something like this and go a little bit lower. I would actually lean towards this potentially being the end of the correction if we do come down here. So we come down here to this demand zone and then start moving up back up higher. So on the 15-minute time frame, just looking at the chart, we are towards the top of this range. There's a gap fill up here at 448. We still haven't filled this gap here at 438. But this is not impulsive, so we don't have a chance to come down here and make new lows right now. It can come back down here, I guess, but it's probably not going to happen. I think maybe down here is the end of the correction, and then we can go higher after that, potentially going all the way up here to 448. So supply and demand, very important. On QQQ, finally get a red candle as well. And I have these hourly supply and demand zones here as well. We have this one right here, which is kind of good, not the best. We have one down here on the hourly at 366.66 and 365. So actually on the 2-hour, I think it's better. So 2-hour takes you all the way down here to 364, and that's actually the .61 fib if this were to keep on falling, which it kind of looks like the same as SPY. You can see we got potentially like that. So we'll see tomorrow. I mean, it does make me think we're going to go down because we're in the middle of these supply demand zones. So it makes me think there's a very good chance we come down here to 364.76 tomorrow to complete this ABC correction. And then from there, we'll see what happens. There's a gap up here at 376. We are, let's just see. I mean, there's a chance that this goes like this and then comes back down a little bit farther because we are pretty high on this move. And if we're going to fill this gap, then maybe it comes down lower or we get, again, another expanded flat. There's a lot of different possibilities here. So we'll see what happens. I would rather it come down like this because if we get this move, that's going to be annoying because that means we have to come all the way down here and then come all the way back up. So I would rather finish it off ABC lower and then go higher, because if we zoom out here, let's say we fill this 376 gap, which is probably going to happen. We could go higher than that too, I guess. Is there another gap up there? There are no other gaps up there. So I think 376 is probably going to be the gap to watch, but there's a good chance we get some ABC move down here and then finish that off maybe in like, could even be like late October, November. We can get an ABC correction that could take a long time, really annoy a lot of people. I would think maybe into tech earnings, we get something like that. We get kind of down and choppiness. So we'll see if I'm right, but we have a corrective move off the top, so there's no chance we're going to come down here to the lower lows anytime soon. All right, Tesla. So I guess my QQQ chart and SPY chart don't really align with what I'm going to say about Tesla though. And I had a comment this was impulsive. It's possible, but for it to be impulsive, it's got to be a nested move because this would have to be wave 1, wave 2. We'd have to be in wave 3 right here. And then this would have to be 1, 2, 3, 4. It's possible. Like that. So if that happens, then you know what that means? That means that this was, actually it kind of looks likely now. It would actually mean that this is an expanded flat again. So if that happens, then there's a possibility that Tesla comes all the way back down here to 247 and fills this gap right here into earnings. And then if that happens, I would expect I would still expect a move higher up here, probably to 280. Maybe not, because there's a demand or a supply zone right there, but yeah, if this turns into being an impulsive move, then you're just looking at anywhere from 240, 246, which is the gap fill, or you get a short one down here, but it looks like it would probably go farther than that. Actually, I can probably go through this and get a projection. So if this is an impulsive move right here, then we are looking at okay, we're looking at 252 for this wave 3 to end. Okay, then we'd be looking at a pullback to, let's just say 256. And then you're looking at like 250, so I would imagine probably the gap fill. So if this ends up being 5 waves, which is actually looks a lot more likely, I commented that it looked like it was corrective, which it could be corrective as well. Anytime you get a nested move, it can be corrective or it could turn into a 5-wave move. That's the the subjective part about Elliott wave. But this would just come down here at 246, and this would be an extended B wave. So we'd be looking at 8 days here. Maybe this finishes off tomorrow. Down here to 246. That'd be a pretty big move, though. It's possible. But then again, we'd be looking for another move higher after that. It'd be like that. I don't think there's any chance that this move is complete because we have a corrective move right here. That's not how it completes. So I think this might happen into earnings if it does happen. Otherwise, we run into earnings. But as I showed you on SPY and QQQ, kind of expecting a little bit more downside, so it makes a lot more sense that Tesla would come down here, potentially all the way to this gap fill. Apple. So Apple filled this gap. I didn't look at it all day. Filled the gap. It went into this supply zone, so that's got to be bearish for the market. That was kind of my target, 181 to 183. Hit it, and it is actually below it now. I think that Apple can potentially sell off now. It's also possible, though, that this is a first wave higher and we get maybe we get a second wave pullback into earnings and then explode after earnings. So that would mean that this is an expanded flat. A lot of expanded flats. But honestly, this looks like it's probably ABC right here. So A, C, A, B, C, B. It honestly looks like this too. So I think you're either going to get this or this was ABC right here, and you're going to get a 5-wave move higher like this. But either way, you're in a demand zone right here. Supply zone. Always get those mixed up. So this supply zone right here, you hit it, bouncing out of it. This looked like it was probably impulsive. This is corrective. So we'll see where it goes from here. I think it's going to bounce out of this supply zone, which it already has, and probably pull back to at least that looks like 5 waves for sure. I know it looks kind of choppy, but it's probably 5 waves. So look for at least a pullback on Apple to the 0.5 fib, I would think. 175. Let's look at supply and demand on this. So supply and demand, we have let's go to the 4-hour. There isn't any good zones. I don't see anything good supply and demand wise. That's not good if you are a bull. So anyway, we'll see what Apple does tomorrow. I didn't do that much charting on it, so I'm trying to do it on the spot. Let's go over NVDA. So NVIDIA 475 came short of where I was saying it was going to go to, but 475 was the 1.61 fib. So ABC correction should be finished on NVIDIA. Now the question is, are we going to get an ABC pullback to a demand zone and go higher, or is NVIDIA going to start falling here? So again, another corrective bear flag here / fourth wave, it looks like to me. So I think that NVIDIA can go lower tomorrow, potentially all the way down here to this. Looks pretty good right here, 460. That might even be a gap fill. It is a gap fill right there at 460 would be my target probably. And let's go back to the 15-minute now. So we broke above this zone right here, which was a supply zone. And then look at this. We came through the supply zone, and then we're bouncing back into the supply zone, and then we have a gap fill below. So potentially that over the next couple of days. That would be a not that big of a fall. Would it be a 2% fall? So that is what I'm looking for short term on NVIDIA. And then again, that could be the start of a move down here to 395. So you got to watch out. But that doesn't make a lot of sense though with the charts on SPY and QQQ. So be careful on NVIDIA if you're going long. Looks like a 5-wave move down to me. Let's go over Amazon. Haven't looked at this in a while. Let's see what happened. So this didn't play out. We ended up going this looks like a 4th wave right here to me. Just off viewing it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So Amazon, where's the 1.61 fib of this? So Amazon is probably going to come up here and hit this 1.61 fib. And that would complete the overall 5 waves, and that would complete ABC. So and then we have to see what happens after that. But it looks like it's about to start a 5th wave higher. Came back in here to this. I think that was the supply zone, though. Let me look. Yeah, so I haven't updated this in a while. There's a supply zone right there. It filled the gap, broke through that. I need to update all these. But I do know for a fact that it's probably going to go up here to 135, and then it's a good short. And at that point, if we get up here to 135, that's going to be similar to SPY and QQQ going up there and filling 376 and 440. It's just how long is this going to take? It looks the same as NVIDIA though. So maybe we get a 5-wave move, and then we get an ABC move lower, just like. And then maybe into earnings too. And then we go higher after earnings, potentially. But I think this gap is going to fill at some point. So that kind of gives you an idea of what QQQ is likely to do. It's probably going to, we're probably going to do this. It's probably going to chop around, potentially go lower, maybe make a normal flat, and then probably go higher. So Maybe it'll come down a little bit lower, but I think it's probably going to come up here and hit 376 at some point. Amazon hits 135. Let's look at Meta. So Meta really broke out. However, that is a very corrective move in my opinion. But it's the same thing as Amazon. It looks like it has one more move higher. So and at that point, let's just look at like parallel lines here to see. Definitely broke through that. So you can see this is definitely not an impulse move. So we're looking at an ABC pattern, and it looks like it has a little bit more to go. The 1.61 fib is at 336. So I'd be looking for 336 on Meta, and that would make this an expanded flat. A, B. So you can see why I'm still bearish overall in the charts, and we're going to have another move down. I was just way too early. Sometimes these B waves are really hard to call. But A, B, we're probably going to do this at some point. So those are going to be good indicators. Watch Meta, watch Amazon. They're the most obvious ones in my opinion. Yeah, and I might change my opinion on Tesla too, just based off looking at these charts. But right now, Meta and Amazon look like a pretty good indicator of where this is going to go. Microsoft. Okay, Microsoft. And, you know, Microsoft, I've had this talked about in the last video. I think it's going to come up here and fill this gap at 338, similar to Meta and Amazon, and then we're going to have this. So we are close to a pretty big correction, I guess, the more I look at this. It might happen on earnings, actually. So how is that going to play into this right here? Again, it's probably going to be chop and down for the next couple of days, and we're probably going to get a move into earnings. Fill this gap, SPY, fill the 440 gap, maybe into earnings. And there's a lot of other catalysts too. We did get a new speaker, so that is settled. And you know, the Middle East war, I mean, who knows what's going to happen with that? It hasn't had a big effect. I think earnings are probably going to be the biggest thing here coming up, and then FOMC. So I'll leave it at that. You got my thesis basically. A little bit higher over the next week or two, maybe a little bit of chop and down over the next couple of days, and then up, and then a big correction. So that's it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Like, subscribe for more updates. Let me know if you agree or not. And let me know if you see anything that I missed. Alright. Have a good night. I'm in Japan. It's in the middle afternoon now. But have a good night.